bureaucrat. I'm not sure what there is to talk about, really. What's so special about it anyway? All right. Bureaucrat is merely the official AI-based virtual assistant of Estonia. Honestly, it doesn't do anything that remarkable. Actually, it mostly does completely mundane and sometimes even boring stuff, such as applying for a permit, renewing your identification, or reporting lost documents, applying for family benefits, or borrowing a book for school, standing up for consumer rights, dealing with a fender bender, notifying of vaccinations, identifying mushrooms, and 1,000 other boring things. Now that you've listened to all this, you're probably wondering what you will do with all the free time on your hands. Well, who would know? Who would know?
It's the perfect weather for a day at the beach. I'd recommend taking the electric scooter and hopping on a bus.
With the help of e-Estonia's virtual assistant bureaucrat, you won't lose any more time solving everyday problems. Pick your preferred device to interact with bureaucrat and get everything done through one communication channel.
How can I help you?
Hi, my name is Ott Velsberg and I'm the Government Chief Data Officer. As you saw from the previous videos, then Estonia has ambition to really radicalize how we provide public services to citizens and businesses. Today, I'm going to provide a brief overview on how we are building the next generation e-government. But it's first important to go through the basics. In Estonia, we see that the government should be as proactive as possible. We should provide public services to citizens and companies in a proactive, seamless manner. The government should be as little bureaucratic as possible, and we should make decisions based on data. In order to achieve a more proactive government, we are right now building Bureaucrat, which is a virtual government assistant. Similarly, we are developing different personalized and invisible services in order to integrate and combine different public services and really make it easier for the citizens to operate and contact the government. While much of the different services require no AI, some of them actually do. In Estonia, we use KRAT as a synonym to raise the awareness of the risks associated with utilizing artificial intelligence. KRAT was built from hay and stitches and typically carried out different tasks to citizens and people. But you always had to be a little bit cautious because KRAT could actually harm you. So similarly to artificial intelligence, it can bring a lot of benefits, but we need to be aware of the risks associated with it. We started to invest in artificial intelligence in 2018, and back then we only had a couple of AI use cases in the government. Today, AI is used by different government agencies. We have over 80 different AI projects utilized and over 30 different organizations that have carried out AI projects. In order to make it more quick and easier for different agencies to utilize AI, we came up with the concept of KRAT-jupid, AI components. And these are open source components that both the private and the public sector can use. And I must say that even though we have a lot of different AI use cases already in the government, today there are no fully automated processes. AI is there to support people to improve decision making. But now to the more interesting part, how we have actually utilized AI. For instance, Unemployment Insurance Fund today both predicts when people are more likely to become unemployed. They also provide recommendations to people on how to increase their employability. Our Tax and Customs Board is identifying companies that are more likely to evade paying taxes. We are currently in development of a more personalized education. What's the problem here? Typically, the teacher has only time to concentrate on the average student. So those who excel or need more help receive little attention. And the idea of a personalized education is to actually improve that. Similarly, we have carried out different identification projects. For instance, on forbidden advertising in Facebook and other media channels, to make sure that illegal alcohol or cigarette or even casino advertisements don't end up being shown to the children. And some of other use cases. Satikas has been used in agriculture to identify if farmers actually mow the farmland or not. Why is this important? The government each year pays out subsidies of roughly 350 million euros. And one of our typical kind of requirements is that the farmers actually have to mow the farmland. Before we utilize Satikas, our government officials had to do on-site inspections. And there was always kind of unclear whether farmers actually mowed the farmland or not. And if the government identified that someone hadn't done so, they typically said that they are just really bad farmers. They already did that in April or March, or they are going to do that in future. After utilizing Satikas, the government each year receives back roughly 600,000 euros. So the project itself pays itself each year. Customer support analytics. After the COVID crisis, we have seen that there's a huge surge and interest in understanding why customers actually contact the government. Here you can see just one of the examples that is provided by FeelingStream. And FeelingStream today is also going to present their solution itself. So customer support analytics, from one way, provides overview of why customers actually contact the government. From another, helps us to improve our public services. And finally, I'm going to talk about reusable AI components. I mentioned that there are different government agencies that have utilized AI, and we have already implemented 6 of them. For instance, textual analytics, Text Toolkit has been used by over 20 different occasions and helps from classification of text to identifying what is the sentiment of people and so on. We are also actively investing in Estonian language technology, whether it is in machine translation, transcription, on speech synthesis. Why do we need to do that? Unfortunately, there is little incentive from big companies to invest in Estonian language, so the government itself has to invest and be active. We are right now in process of developing chatbot and process analysis solutions. And next year we are going to work on, for instance, anonymization toolkit, abstract maker, and speech analysis. But first you saw the video about bureaucrat. Bureaucrat, in a nutshell, is government virtual assistant. And this is how we vision that all different public services should be delivered to citizens and companies in future. It provides citizens one interaction, one contact point to receive all public services in Estonian language, in Russian, in English, and hopefully in a few years' time also through sign language. You can use any device, any means of communication. So we are rethinking of how the interaction with the government actually works. You don't need to use separate information systems. You can use Facebook. You can use just calling or SMSing the government. It is up to the citizen to decide how they want to interact and contact the government. And of course, proactively providing services. If we see that someone is reliable or could receive some benefits, then we should not wait for the citizen to ask the government for allowances or benefits, but we should proactively provide them. we already, in the end of this year, are coming live with bureaucrat on 3 different agencies. Among them, Police and Border Control and National Library. And all of the bureaucrat, the base components, they are open source. So everyone, both in Estonia and internationally, can use them. But this is not where we want to stop. We want to provide more services from bureaucrat, whether it is renewing your passport, borrowing a book. Also, we are working on personalized services. So making the proactive government actually come true. In order to make sure that all government information is valid and reliable, we are right now developing article warehouse. This is especially relevant when it comes to COVID crisis, where we see that different government agencies often provide misleading information. But from the citizen perspective, it is important that the information is reliable and coherent across different government channels. And bureaucrat is one way to provide that. Similarly, we are right now in discussion of developing government mobile application. We see a trend that more and more citizens are using mobile devices, and it is widespread. Over 90% of Estonian households use mobile devices every day. And there is also kind of a tendency from different public organizations right now to develop their own mobile application. We find that it is more beneficial to create one centrally. And of course, creating means other than government information systems to interact with the government. So whether it is Facebook, Signal, and calling, this is something that we are going to develop already next year. So this has been a brief overview from my end on how we are right now utilizing AI in the government. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or anyone else from the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ott, for your overview. We have a very active participants today, so we have received already 3 questions to you. So I would take the first one over here. How can you make sure that people would trust CRET and the usage, the data usage as well?
That's a great question. So in Estonia, we are utilizing data tracker. So data tracker provides an overview of how the government actually processes and uses the data. And the overview is provided through government portal. So every citizen has an overview of how the government actually uses their data. So this is just one way to do that.
We have been talking about this data tracker also to our people that have been visiting us here at the briefing center many times, and there is always the question coming from the audience side as well, like, is there any other country who also provides a similar solution? Do you know any? Because we always have this conversation, and I haven't found out if there is any country like that.
As far as I know, there is no other country. Okay. And data tracker itself is part of our strategic agenda. So even though right now not all information systems utilize data tracker, our goal for 2030 is that all government information systems utilize data tracker. So there is full transparency on how government processes data.
But can we also see how many people actually look at that information yearly or daily or in a way?
We do have that statistics. Yeah. So it's around 30,000 people each month. Okay. So not a lot, but the awareness is raising right now.
But I would say having this number not too big shows that there's a trust, so that I don't need to go and check it out all the time. So I would say that this is actually the positive side. Speaking about the other countries, there's also a question coming here. Are there any other countries that you would bring out as an example for Estonia, as well as the other countries in terms of the AI side, so that some country that we look up for and they have been very successful, and we're maybe some way collaborating with them and also learning from each other?
Absolutely. So Finland is just one of them. I presented what we are doing in regards to bureaucrat. Finland is right now developing Aurora AI, which is their version of bureaucrat, so virtual assistant. And we are actively collaborating with Finland. We are discussing similar things with Canada, Netherlands, Belgium. So there's a lot of collaboration going on.
Yeah, I think that's great again because we can learn from each other, like also lessons and mistakes by the development side. And I'm pretty sure also because some of the companies that are going to speak also here today are not providing also solutions to Estonians, but also in so many other countries. So definitely having this kind of international collaboration is essential. And I would take the last question. So you partly already talked about this, but maybe I would just turn it the other way around. So what are the biggest goals and trends for you in the next few years? And I would maybe put it in a way that what's your own biggest goal by working in your position and when it comes to the AI? What's your favorite project that you're currently working on?
I think it would be wrong me to say not to say bureaucrat, and the hope is that by next year already we would have over 10 different agencies that have utilized bureaucrat, and by 2023 I hope that it's 20 and we provide more actively different services and make the government experience the best possible. So I think that's one of the kind of biggest goals right now.
That's great. Thank you very much.